Hello, everybody. I'm a practicing therapist and a doctoral student of psychology. Today, I want to talk about some strange traits, odd, specific traits that all women feel drawn to when a man has these traits. And so it's usually women really emotionally, subconsciously are very drawn and magnetized to the men who have these traits. And the reason why I say they're odd and specific is because these are things that, like, most men will not consider or think about, but a lot of women just almost think about instinctively. And the first one is actually you being protective over your sister or mother, but you're not coddled by your mother or sister. Okay, so let's just unpack this because I understand it is kind of odd, or it might not make a lot of sense because men do not feel this way really at all. I rarely have heard men talk about this from any of my cases, any of my consulting calls, but women, friends, family member, most of them like this. And so it's like almost so instinctive. It's not even something that women need to explain to one another because it just happens naturally. And the reason why is, first of all, it shows that you respect women. That makes sense, right? But it also shows authority and dominance, because if you are protective over them, that means that they feel safe with you. So you are almost like pre-scanned by other women who are very close to you, who know you very well. And if they feel safe enough to be protected by you, that means you are a safe person and your authority is not too overwhelming, but it's very safe. And that is also the dominance part. A mother who is older than you, or even a sister who might be older or younger, her age doesn't matter, but of course mother is going to be older, right? Someone who's an older woman who you would think that she would feel more protective over you at one stage, yes, but when the dynamic switches, it's because you are more dominant in that relationship now. And that is why a lot of women feel this is attractive. That's why the opposite of this, if you are coddled by your mother, I'm sorry if coddled is a harsh word. I don't mean it in a negative way. I'm trying to explain this and I'm lost for word there. It almost feels like the mother is still dominant over you, and women just don't find that as attractive. The next one is that if you have certain morals or values or perspectives, whatever your version is, it doesn't matter necessarily. All that really matters for most women is that you live by those things and you expect them from her to some extent. Obviously, the expectation is going to be a little bit different based on how you perceive things, gender dynamics, etc. But often the reason why this is very attractive to women is because it shows that you have unwavering confidence about things, but it also displays leadership characteristics. I want to explain and expand upon this, okay? So a lot of research does show that individuals follow leaders who have a balance between competence, confidence, and also understanding the people that they are leading, okay? And so now that we've talked about those 3 points, it's very important to understand why this makes sense. If you have certain morals and perspectives, for example, and you are displaying that, let's say you get married to this girl, okay? So now you're expecting your family to follow those morals and perspectives, whatever it is. When you are confident in those perspectives, women believe and trust those things more, whatever it may be. It may be that you believe that maybe you don't borrow money from anybody. Whatever it is, you guys are going to pull through it as a family. Maybe that's your belief system. She might not fully understand why you feel that way, but because you're so confident in it, she feels safe to trust you. It also shows that she feels safe that you know what you're doing. It also feels safe that she doesn't have to really intervene or worry about it because she knows that you are the leader of whatever your perspective and moral is. And when you teach her, when you teach, your sons, daughters, whatever it is, she knows that those children, your children, are in good hands, okay? So that's kind of the translation as to why, from an evolutionary psychology perspective, that's where it comes from. The social psychology perspective is that she becomes influenced by you, right? A lot of social psychology is influence, perspective, emotion, anything like consequences, right? And she's able to understand those things as well, which is a lot of the components as to why individuals get into healthy relationships, not just to build each other, but also to build with each other and learn. The next one is you value autonomy in yourself. Women like this because it allows her to feel like, I guess for lack of better words, you have control over yourself, and that you're not easy to manipulate and you have confidence in yourself. A person who does not like themselves, a lot of people subconsciously will ask, well, why doesn't he like himself? It's not always the case, right? Some people, everyone has areas they don't like about themselves. But if you don't like yourself to such a point where you avoid your own company, the opposite of autonomy, a lot of women will think, well, you know yourself better than anyone. Why do you avoid being with yourself? Obviously, that's not the exact reason. A lot of people have trauma in their past. Their parents were abusive, and so they don't really know how to self-regulate. That's actually the reason why a lot of people might avoid being alone or leaning into their autonomy. But subconsciously, these are reasons why women are wired to be aware of these things, because there are some men out there that are like that and they are mentally unstable and unsafe for her. And so because you might accidentally fit that group, even though you're not, people might just not be as attuned to want to connect with you because of that. And so if you start valuing your autonomy a little bit more, it doesn't mean you're completely independent, you shove everybody away. I'm not saying that, but independent to the point where you trust yourself, you believe in yourself, and you have things that you do for yourself. Women do find that attractive. It also just shows confidence in general. The next one is really important because there are people in two camps that are not really fitting this, and I think it can sabotage your opportunity for relationships because, again, these are really specific and men don't think about these things, but women do. When you apologize, if you over apologize, sometimes women think that that might be that you're not confident in what you're about to deliver. And then if you don't apologize at all, it feels that you don't have empathy for her. So then a lot of you guys will think, okay, what's the balance? The balance for a lot of women, remember it's specific, when you apologize once, and then you make adjustments with your actions instead of getting in your head about it or overly apologizing. I know this is not going to fit every case because maybe there's nothing to apologize for. But when you get married and you're in a relationship, there will be times where both you and her apologize. When women overly apologize, for a lot of men, sometimes what happens is they might feel, I feel guilty, I don't want to make her feel bad. She doesn't need to do all that. But when women overly apologize, the reason they do it is partly, I'm just going to say it. They are doing that because they feel like they're in the submissive role to you. Okay. And so sometimes that's just her natural instinct. When she makes a mistake, she overly apologizes or she's always checking your emotions. I know that can be really annoying. I get it. But that is why she does that. If you do that, it puts you in the submissive role. And sometimes that can be difficult for women who want a man who's more in. The next one is being honest while still being respectful. This is important because a lot of people can struggle with this balance. But if you are a man who has the balance, you have a trait that a lot of women find very attractive. The balance is that if you are dishonest, a lot of times that just means that you don't, you might not have confidence. Maybe you don't respect her, whatever that situation is. That's a little different because that is not even regarding honesty. But in terms of honesty, some people are so honest, they are blunt about it and they're very imposing about it. So why can this sometimes be a little off-putting for some women? Okay. The reason is some men don't realize that if you're talking like that to a stranger or someone you don't know, it creates a very strong amount of pressure towards her. And people don't realize that this is why sometimes very, very blunt honesty can be very uncomfortable, okay? Because sometimes people who are very honest, they don't realize that it's not your place to say whatever you're talking about. Like, just because the lack of rapport between you guys, it's not about the lack of honesty. And a lot of men miss this one. And so I might get pushback for this. And I do understand. I'm trying to help. I'm not trying to like sugarcoat things. That would be a waste of everybody's time, in my opinion. I could be wrong. And so obviously if you're watching this video, you are trying to learn to some extent. And so that's why I'm sharing it. Okay. The reason is because if you do not know this person and that person did not ask, or they're not like, for example, you guys are clicking this video, there's some opportunity for you to want to learn something. So that's a little different. But if it's like a stranger, right? And you tell her something completely out of the blue and you do not know her, a lot of times that honesty might be peppered with assumptions because you don't know her well enough, right? And so in a face-to-face conversation, that can be a little off-putting, even though you're not meaning it like that. You're trying to be honest with her because you already respect her. But if she doesn't have the same connection with you yet, it might be a little imbalanced. So that's the reason why sometimes very direct and blunt honesty can be a little overwhelming because she doesn't see you like that yet. Women take a long time to warm up. Men, if they like someone, they know. If they don't like someone, they tend to not like somebody. Women, they stay lukewarm for a pretty long time. And so you might have more rapport and trust, and you might be more open about your feelings than she is. And so when you're direct and honest, you're saying this from a point of respect. You respect her, you like her, and you feel like you guys are okay to talk about this between each other. She doesn't see you like that yet. This is a little bit of a sub point, but that's why a lot of people get confused with this one. And so if you are a guy that a lot of women find very attractive, typically you are honest, but you're still respectful about the boundaries you guys still have because you're getting to know each other. It's very different if you're married. If you're married, then you know the balance. But if you're getting to know each other, you understand that you have to still be very tactful about how you say certain things, okay? The next one is you express directly when a boundary has been crossed without going too extreme, because this shows that you have a stable mindset. If she crosses a boundary and she just doesn't know any better, depending on the boundary, of course, like please take everything with a grain of salt, then if you have a balanced boundary, it shows that you are a stable person. Whereas if it's extreme, then it shows that maybe you have your own dysregulation. For example, let's say you say never, text me after 9 p.m. because you're, preparing to go to bed, whatever. And maybe she texts you a little bit after 9 p.m. and she didn't really know it was such a strict boundary. By you setting that and cutting her off and stop dating her, that's your right. But it's going to be really hard for you to find a relationship. And a lot of women will find that a little confusing. But if you are a guy who sets a boundary and you talk to her and maybe you guys have a 5-minute phone call and you're like, okay, that's fine. But if it goes over a certain point, just say, I'm just letting you know it's, I prepare for bed. I work really early. I'm really busy. And so we can talk for a little bit. But this is a reason why I don't like really having conversations after 9 p.m. because, this is just the way it is. But usually these are the reasons why a lot of women are very attracted to these. And so being protective over your sister or mother, having certain morals and perspectives you live by, valuing your autonomy. When you apologize once and make that adjustment, being honest while still being respectful, and expressing a boundary that has been crossed without going too extreme. I hope this video is helpful to somebody. Please like, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.